talk to Jack Elsom, political editor at The Sun. Jack, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Very well indeed. I'd say it's a bit of nostalgia for me this morning. I mean, you're probably too young to remember the Tory campaign poster for 1979 when Margaret Thatcher swept to victory. Labour isn't working. A fabulous piece in The Sun by Leo McKinstry. It was famously a sort of a snaking queue of people queuing at the unemployment office. And basically Leo's saying it's a startling image from 1979, but it's starting to look a bit like that now.
Yeah, totally, and it can be applied to the modern day. I think alongside the small boats crisis, welfare is probably the biggest scandal facing this government. It doesn't get as much pick up because it's not as visible, but it is equally as damaging to our country. It talks about it in the piece. We have about 6.5 million people on some kind of out-of-work benefits. And sickness benefits alone is set to balloon to about £100 billion by the end of the Parliament. And, you know, it is just so bad for our economy, not just the sheer cost of this, but also it means that if we have, you know, more Brits on the dole, it means that we have to import more migrants, then our population keeps expanding. And also, in terms of just the morale, it is such a drain on morale for the actual working people of this country, seeing the dole queue get ever longer and then going out to work. You know, your viewer just then talked about getting up at 4 in the morning. He's setting his alarm clock incredibly early to go out and do a hard day's graft and subsidising people that don't do anything. And, you know, Keir Starmer, we learn that he's going to have another stab at cutting the welfare bill. You'll remember that he bottled £5 billion of welfare cuts, pretty a drop in the ocean, to be honest. You know, in terms of how actually welfare is going to go up. He bottled that a few months ago amid a backbench rebellion. Hopefully he manages to get it through because, you know, he cannot sacrifice the economic well-being of this country over to the hands of a few left-wing backbenchers. And so hopefully this time he manages to actually drive some cuts through.
Well, that would be good. But the trouble is, of course, an awful lot of people say to me that in terms of the way the benefits culture works, it's probably, unless you're going to get a better paid job than, say, minimum wage job, you're actually better off on benefits. And that's part of the problem, isn't it? Because there's no incentive to get a job if you're better off on benefits.
Yeah, and this was really sort of the reforms that Ian Duncan Smith tried to champion when he was welfare secretary. He said that nobody should be better off on benefits than in work. And, you know, there's been many studies since, Centre for Social Justice, there's some great studies showing that actually there are still lots of people and there are lots of ways that actually you can be better off on benefits than in work. And that is just a principle which I think that nobody would agree with, and that if you go to work, get up in the morning and do a day's shift, then you should be better compensated than if you don't. Obviously, there are going to be people that just cannot work, people with crippling disabilities. And, you know, I think we are a compassionate nation and no one would say that they shouldn't have a comfortable life. But for the people that actually don't have any requirement to look for work whatsoever, because, you know, they for all sorts of reasons, that list is growing. And I think that we have to actually be upfront about the fact that since the pandemic, claims of mental health have just gone absolutely through the roof. And a lot of the cases are over the phone consultations with GPs, because we haven't really got back to face-to-face consultations since the pandemic. And there's some reports out recently that more than 90% of fit note requests are just signed off willy-nilly with no kind of actual proper verification and checks whatsoever. And so this is where we're getting to a point now where we have more people out, more and more people going out of work, less of a working age population, and it's really draining on the economy and the morale of the working people of the country.
Well, that's the thing. It becomes a two-tier system. You get a smaller and smaller number of people providing tax for those who are getting bigger and bigger, who don't provide anything at all to the centre of the state. And so it's sort of economically unsustainable, which is why he quotes from Lord Stuart Rose, the former head of Marks and Spencer's, basically saying that we're on the edge of a crisis.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Stuart Rose yesterday, former boss of M&S, was absolutely withering about the government. You know, and often what he's doing is echoing all of these sort of studies and reports we get from the city and from industry. Every single day it comes out, and you know, less people are hiring. You know, more people are being laid off because, you know, the economy is really being pushed to breaking point. And, you know, what is really quite distressing, I think, to a lot of businesses at the moment is that they feel that Rachel Reeves is going to come back for even more in a few months' time at the budget, because she's really boxed herself in now. She hasn't got that much fabled growth that she bet the house on in her first few months, because growth still has been pretty anemic. She says she can't borrow anymore, and I think that's probably a good thing. She's saying she's sticking to her fiscal rules because no one wants to see borrowing go up anymore, because then our debt interest gets even higher. She isn't doing any sort of serious cuts in the economy to the point where actually, you trim the fat and so you make savings. And so the only thing she's really left with to get that green tick from the OBR, which she really wants so badly, is tax rises. Yeah. She's ruled out taxes on income tax, VAT, national insurance, although they did that before the election, obviously still went ahead with it. And so the only thing left really is businesses. And for a time when you're trying to get that growth, it's just going to be incredibly damaging. And also, you will know as well as anyone, taxing businesses doesn't mean that workers are immune to that. Workers pay the price a lot of the time for it, and consumers pay the price. So, it's really quite distressing.
It really is. There's no real light at the end of the tunnel either. Jack, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Jack Elsom there, particularly at The Sun, giving us his view on Leo McKinstry's piece in The Sun today. Labour isn't working. Starmer stuck in a doom loop. And it says it wasn't then and it isn't now. Labour is not working. Quite frankly, so many people in this country not doing anything worthwhile, not actually providing any money for the exchequer. And unfortunately, you've got a load of people like somebody called Claire Russell, who gave a recent newspaper interview in which she said 10 years ago she gave up work at the age of 46. Since then has lived off the disability benefits she receives for a bad back, as well as a substantial rental income from some property, plus a carer's allowance to look after her mother who lives 30 miles away. She says she's got a lovely life thanks to the great British taxpayer. Well, that's nice, isn't it? Nice for her. Lovely. She's probably not even up yet.